Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar with Similarweb. Welcome, first of all. Thank you, first of all, from all of us for signing up to our special webinar that we prepared for you today. My name is CK and I will be your host today for this webinar. I'm CK and I am the marketing manager for Asia Pacific region. Yes, we are specially preparing this webinar for you to talk about some of the Asia Pacific topic that we wanted to address. And the topic for this webinar today is D2C marketing, Skyrocket your success. And well, D2C, direct to consumer marketing, typically refers to the practice of marketing a company's product or services directly to the consumer through personal or online interaction. So in this webinar, we are going to find out from our data, presenting to you the fastest growing D2C brand in the region of Asia Pacific and what we can learn from their winning strategy. So for the agenda today, we have a special lineup prepared for you. And first of all, we will be presenting the special report that is prepared by our expert of digital marketers, Yuquan. And then after this report, we will then go to our special guest from TikTok, and this segment will be hosted by our APAC Senior VP, Uri Snyder. So let's turn on all our cameras for all the panelists that's joining today to say hi to all our viewers. Shall we?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
Cool. Thank you, guys. So that's our lineup. Now, Similarweb, as you can see, who are we and what do we do? So Similarweb is committed to powering business around the globe with the best digital data. And we wanted to arm you with these best digital data that you can make from with helping you making important business decisions. We create the most accurate, comprehensive, and actionable digital data so that you can win in your market. So it's all about the blend that we bring to you, our unique mix of data, of digital signals obtained from a variety of unique sources, allowed us to measure and to map the digital world in a timely and comprehensive way. And as you can see from the next step, we are obsessed with mapping all the digital world in every corner that we can find so that you are armed with all these data and you can take action on these data. Okay, so throughout this webinar, you can also submit questions to us and I will be handling the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So without further ado, I want to invite my colleague, Yuquan, who's an expert in digital marketing, and he has spiced up a very special report for this region. And I leave the floor to you now, Yuquan.
So I'm Yuquan from Similarweb, and what I do here at Similarweb basically is to help clients around Asia Pacific, Greater China region, and also ANZ region to understand their D2C growth, to understand online digital world in general. Where's the growth opportunities? Where is trending? What are the branding activities that we can do, performance marketing wise, on Google search, what can we do, and things like that. So there has been a lot of questions around D2C in recent months. Many questions have sprouted throughout all my conversations with our clients. And today I'll be sharing some e-commerce and D2C research done by my team with some focus on e-commerce trends globally across APAC region. And also specifically, I will touch on consumer electronics in India and beauty and cosmetics in Indonesia, spotlighting certain brands which done really well this year. So global e-commerce growth stagnates. Large size APAC markets, India and Indonesia, experience a drop in online traffic. So if you were to take a look at the worldwide data, actually online visits to e-commerce websites globally have dropped by about 2.5% year on year. And in the APAC markets, 6 out of 10, which we have shown here, are actually in the red. Right, big e-commerce markets such as India and Indonesia have also seen a slowdown and decline in growth year on year. For India by over 9%, for Indonesia by over 5%. Right. If there are markets to actually focus on for e-commerce in APAC, Vietnam and South Korea are key for us to get this market share. These are the only two markets which are growing year on year by 8% and 10% respectively. Right. So if we are working in Hong Kong and Malaysia, we are actually seeing a drop in over 10% of online traffic to e-commerce websites. So is a stagnation and fall of e-commerce traffic due to wider macro factors? Are all categories equally affected? Or there are actually some categories which are growing, some are slowing, some are declining. So what we have found is that D2C growth beats e-commerce growth for consumer electronics in India. And this is also seen in beauty and cosmetics in Indonesia, right? So although there is an increase in traffic to D2C consumer electronics website, and we are talking about transactional websites like Samsung.com, Apple.com, but on Amazon, in related categories such as electronics, such as mobile phones, computer and accessories, we see a double-digit drop in traffic. So there is a sudden shift in shopping behavior, consumer behavior, moving towards D2C website for digital footfall, for conversions. Well, in the beauty and cosmetics category in Indonesia, we see a similar trend over here. While the D2C transactional websites grew by 38% year on year, similar categories on Shopee actually see a decline. Right, so different categories are behaving differently, and how then do we track growth? How then do we allocate budgets to third-party retailers? How do we allocate budgets to D2C growth? Which are the winning strategies? And this is what we're going to show you today. We'll be spotlighting two key brands today. Samsung in India, which grew at a much faster rate than the industry average. Samsung, even though it is already the top player in India, continues to grow year on year by over 14%, beating the industry average of 9%. Secondly, for beauty and cosmetics in Indonesia, Viva Cosmetics grew by over 56% year on year. It is a fast-growing, rising player as tracked by Similarweb data, and it beats the industry average of 38%. So what did they do? What are the winning strategies? And we'll examine all this today. So in the next few slides, I'll first start to talk about Samsung. Right, understanding Samsung's growth against the whole industry is key to first identify how much it has beat competition. But what's also important for Samsung and its competitors is to put them side by side to understand which is growing at a faster rate and which brand has opportunities to grow. When we look at Samsung.com, Me.com, OnePlus.in, Oppo.com, and Apple.com in India, you would notice that Samsung actually leads the pack in growth and grew by 14% year on year. Whereas for Xiaomi, for OnePlus, we do see a decline in traffic, right? And when you look at cross-browsing behavior, which over here we are inclined to think about sales leakage from brand to brand, you would notice that cross-browsing from Samsung to other brands have also dropped over time. So what does this suggest? Samsung clearly has a very strong branding strategy, very strong retention strategy in India, preventing sales leakage to other brands such as Oppo, such as Apple. But if you look at the graph below, the numbers in green, 4.65%, OnePlus is the only brand that actually managed to increase cross-visitation from Samsung's online audience. So it is a brand that Samsung needs to watch. How can then Samsung defend certain market share? How can then Samsung bring their potential customers back to their website through retargeting perhaps, we would like to understand where OnePlus's audience are at. So through cross-browsing activities, through their web activities, this is what we notice. There is increased audience overlap for OnePlus's audience on the print, on Scoop, and some of the other publishers in India. So this is opportunity for Samsung to actually put on display ad branding, to run retargeting ads, to prevent certain sales leakage that could potentially be lost to OnePlus. So we've established that Samsung has actually put up quite a good fight, right? Audience loyalty, audience retention, online market growth, traffic is growing year on year. So what did they do? Samsung's growth is largely attributed to its search traffic. So if you look at the graph in terms of change in traffic for each marketing channel, only 4 channels have a positive growth year on year that eventually led to a net positive increase in online traffic for Samsung. Paid search increased by 13% year on year, organic search by 22% year on year, and direct traffic to Samsung.com actually also increased by 17% year on year, attributed to their branding activities, attributed to how they have run their SEM campaign. So we wanted to understand, with Samsung's growth year on year, did it come from branded search term or non-branded search term? What does this tell us? When we look at the branded search share in Q1 2022 and compare it to Q1 2023, Samsung's already very high branded search share of 93.68% increased to 94.41% this year. So what does this mean? Out of 100 searches that lead to a click-through to Samsung.com, more than 94 of these search terms include Samsung as a keyword. Very, very high brand loyalty, very, very high brand awareness, and it continues to increase year on year in India. So this is a way a lot of our clients use to also track their branding activities and relate it back to a competitive benchmarking. How are other brands performing? If we have noticed, actually Apple is the only other brand that has also increased its branded search share this year. For Xiaomi and OnePlus, brand awareness through the lens of branded search share have dropped year on year. So paid search increased by quite significantly for Samsung year on year by over 13% this year. So we look at different subcategories that Samsung actually has, right? Smart product categories was one that they really trumped other brands in. For smart products related keyword, Samsung took about 73% competitive market share of paid search, whereas Xiaomi took about 20% of these similar search terms. Clearly, Samsung had a dominant share in these categories, and they are using keyword bidding to achieve that. Other brands could also tap onto this area to kind of increase their footfall on smartwatch, smart TV, best 5G smartphone, and best smartphone under 15,000. So these are clear ways where brands can come into the market to bring digital footfall to their website. So we've talked a lot about Samsung today. I want to bring up certain smaller brands of different size in Indonesia. So for beauty and cosmetics in Indonesia, we have established earlier that D2C growth is exploding, right? E-commerce growth for this category, while it's slowing down, D2C growth is actually exploding. Some of the key players or some of the more dominant players in terms of positive growth includes Viva Cosmetic, BLP Beauty, SK Cosmetics, and Water Beauty. So when you put all these brands side by side together, what you will notice is that all 4 brands grew positively year on year. But Viva Cosmetics stands out by over 56% growth in online traffic. But if you look at the blue chart and the yellow chart, you will notice that in 2022, they have pretty similar online traffic, Water Beauty and Viva Cosmetics. But in just a year, the gap has widened. And what did Viva Cosmetics do to have such explosive growth? So we dug through the different marketing channels, direct traffic, paid search, organic search, email marketing, display ads, referral traffic, so on and so forth. And one channel stood out, and that is referral traffic, right? So the growth in referral traffic to Viva Cosmetics has actually helped this brand stand out year on year against other competitors. And if we just look at referral traffic channel as one, it actually took more than 50% of competitive traffic share in this whole competitive set from this channel alone, mainly from sites such as Her Story, Inspire, CBS News, so on and so forth. And are they still doubling down on this channel? Apparently they are. If you look at the April visit from referral channel, it has reached an all-time high for Viva Cosmetics, and there are new websites that actually come up: Sportskeeda, Business Bandung, Helpwire, Luxury Levels, new referral partners that actually send traffic to Viva Cosmetics. Moving on, as we continue to dive into the beauty and cosmetics industry in Indonesia, we notice one brand that stands out, and it is Glow Recipe. But in our industry analysis of all the beauty and cosmetics websites, this website grew one of the most, by about 182% year on year. And if you look at the trend line, right, which is represented by the green trend line for Glow Recipe, it only started to really enter the digital space in 2023, January. And with that, they have already surpassed online traffic of BLP Beauty, SK Cosmetics. Pretty amazing, very fast, and they've leveraged several marketing channels to achieve such growth. So really important for other competitors such as BLP Beauty and SK Cosmetics to quickly identify what they're doing, emerging threats that would steal market share away from them. So what did Glow Recipe do? What is their winning strategy? So very, very strategic. In January, we tracked a huge increase in publisher display ads and social media traffic, all out on branding. And in February, they moved to another channel to continue their growth through referral traffic, such as product reviews, review website, affiliate partnership, boosting retention, stickiness, and kind of authority in these topics. And in March, when their brand is sort of established, more people know them, this is where they put money into paid search investment. So new investment in paid search was actually identified in March for Glow Recipe. Before that, they were not doing any keyword bidding, a lot of branding. But with that, if you notice the trend line, all these activities actually come into fruition where they have reached a pretty stable growth, beating both BLP Beauty and SK Cosmetics. So back to this whole beauty and cosmetics industry, besides identifying emerging threats, new entrants, identifying the key opportunities in different marketing channels, one of the important things that many clients have asked us is, how about audience? How do we reach the right audience? So are you fumbling to create your own first-party data amidst all this, phasing out of cookies, understanding where your audience is at, understanding where your competitors are at? This is what we want to do over here. So audience interest at Similarweb, what we do is to track all the cross-browsing behavior of each online audience of each brand. So 3 ways that we can use this to actually create an audience group that will help us with our D2C growth. So first way, understanding how much of my audience or my competitors' audience have a high affinity with e-commerce platforms such as Shopee, Tokopedia, Lazada, Bilibili, so on and so forth. So what does this tell us? If you look at Viva's website visitors, they have about 26% overlap with Shopee, 9% overlap with Tokopedia. And if you look at Wada's online visitors, they have about 34% overlap with Shopee and 31% overlap with Tokopedia. What does this mean? Wada obviously needs to also focus on their e-commerce growth to retain certain sales volume, GMV, and ultimately conversions, right? But for Viva, it looks pretty different. For Tokopedia, there is only a 9% overlap in terms of Viva's website visitors. D2C would have a lot more focus and should be one of the strategic goals of Viva when compared to Wada. So secondly, how can we use audience interest to then target my existing potential customers or my competitors' potential customers? So let's look at it this way. Where to find Viva's online visitors? So through all the cross-browsing behaviors that Similarweb has tracked, these 4 websites have the highest cross-visitation with Viva website visitors in terms of news and media publishers: Brainberries, Nation, CNN Indonesia, and Compass.com. So what does this mean to Viva? A great place to retarget your ads because high affinity. What does this mean for Viva's competitors? A great way to increase your branding activities, to sell similar products, to push similar products that's directly competing with Viva. So last way, creating audience and social media, combining them both together. So social media especially is one of the key engine of growth for industries such as beauty and cosmetics, such as fast fashion, FMCG, so on and so forth. Understanding where each social media has a high audience overlap with the different brands could help you to quickly identify which social media you should invest your monies on, or which social media has a high audience overlap with a competitor brand that I'm currently watching. So if you look at TikTok users cross visitation with beauty sites in Indonesia, and we are ranking them with high cross visitation to low cross visitation, which essentially just means audience overlap. Sociola has the highest audience overlap with TikTok, followed by X, Sephora, and Viva Cosmetic. Not surprising, given that TikTok is a great engine for branding activities, great engine for awareness. This has also helped Viva Cosmetic to grow by over 50% in terms of traffic year on year. But of course, social media as an important engine for growth would be better explained by a professional in this industry, where Hong later would be able to share with us how different brands leverage TikTok to increase their D2C awareness, to increase their D2C online traffic. So with that, I've covered most of the parts that are actually prepared by my team. And before I pass this time back to CK, who would help us to transit to the next half of this webinar, let me just summarize certain key takeaways that we have from Similarweb. Online traffic to e-commerce looks to be slowing globally and also in APAC markets. In some categories, D2C traffic continues to grow, even though e-commerce footfall in these categories decline. And these categories are consumer electronics in India, beauty and cosmetics industry in Indonesia. Samsung leads growth in India through branding and their top-notch SEM strategy. Viva Cosmetic, a rising player in Indonesia, stands out through its referral strategies. Glow Recipe stands out with its strategic approach in branding, referrals, and then paid search. So with that, I'll pass the time to CK. Thank you.
Thank you, Yiquan. for preparing for us for this report. I know Yuchen worked very, very hard for this report. Imagine all those data you just saw came from Similarweb. Now, social media, have you used it? How are you using it for D2C? This is the next segment, which our Senior VP of Asia Pacific, Uri Snyder, is going to host the next segment. He's a very busy person, but thank you, Uri, for hosting this for us, this webinar for our viewers. And of course, our guests of honor today from TikTok, Hung from TikTok. He is the head of regional D2C here in TikTok, and he has almost more than 15 years of experience in this realm. So I pass this segment to you now, Uri.
Thank you, CK. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate your time. And Hung, thanks so much for being here with us.
Hi, Uri. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me in this forum.
So I was wondering if we could begin the conversation with you sharing a little bit of background into your role at TikTok, a little bit about your general professional background, as well as some details about how you and your team support some of the key D2C brands in the region.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Uri. So I've been with TikTok for about 2 years, and prior to that, Google for about 8 years. So net about 10 years in Singapore so far. My role at TikTok is leading the D2C and emerging vertical business. And prior to last year, I was managing the Shopee relationship regionally as well. At Google, I was managing emerging markets like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. So very happy to be here. In terms of our team structure and the support level, so we're part of the sort of like key accounts team. So regionally, so we work with some of the largest regional clients in the region for TikTok, for SEA. And in terms of support, we do a variety of things for our very strategic partners. So we do like, hands-on support. We have like weekly call, bi-weekly call, a monthly call, depending on where they are in the journey. And we support them on a variety of things from like product testing and learning agenda, creative best practices, workshops, ideation. And we support them on measurement foundation or, like some deeper dive into measurement with our marketing science team. And we from time to time do tailored workshops depending on the needs of the business that we work with. So yeah, I think a variety of things, but we work on a very sort of dedicated and tailored approach to our partners in the region.
So can you share a little bit more, in your opinion, what makes TikTok such an important D2C channel? Kind of what really makes TikTok stand out as something unique to all the other platforms that companies have to consider?
Yeah, thanks, Uri. I think that's a great question. So I think the number one thing that makes TikTok stand out in different channels is that we have this significant attention gap. So a lot of our users spend close to 1.5 hours on the platform, and they open the app like 12 times per day. So the level of engagement is significant, and we are one of the very few platforms that's still seeing like monthly active users grow after the pandemic, which is a very great testimonial to our algorithm to helping users find what they want and entertain them at the same time. In terms of a platform for advertisers, so we are basically done a research with BCG, Boston Consulting Group, to identify some of the key elements that our advertisers can leverage on the platform in what we call the shoppertainment narrative. So basically, TikTok is a shoppertainment narrative. It is a platform where an advertiser comes for a content-driven platform, and what they do is tend to like educate and entertain the user. And we combine content, culture, and commerce to create a very holistic experience for the consumers. And first and foremost, and secondly, I think we also are like a very discovery-driven platform. So a lot of the new brands for D2C are actually discovered. And we are there as a discovery enabler to encourage brands to be exposed to new users so that they can find what they need on the platform rather than having some sort of pre-consumed behavior there. Yeah, so these are the two things. Discovery and shoppertainment would be the one that I think differentiate us from other partners.
That's really helpful. I think one of the topics that I was really keen for us to dig into in this conversation was really about marketing attribution and how you speak to clients about attribution that takes place at the beginning of the funnel. We're talking about awareness as opposed to conversion, And how do you help clients think about the investments that they make at various points along the buyer journey, even when it's more difficult to do so because it's not attached directly to a conversion?
I think that's a great question, and it's one of the key things that we drive with our partners on a daily basis. So inherently, TikTok is a short-form video platform. So a lot of the behavior that we have seen is that it's not only about click-based conversion, but it's also about a lot about like view-through conversion. So first and foremost, we spend a lot of time sort of like encouraging our advertisers to look at both click-based and view-through conversion. And luckily, I think in this industry, people understand that in order to not only get sales, but also expand the funnel, they need to look beyond clicks, right? And a lot of our partners have become very smart, and they have used things, for example, like post-purchase survey, so that they can go another level to ask their purchasers on what has driven them to make the purchase. And we have seen very a lot of successful case from our advertisers where they leveraged, post-purchase survey, and they've been able to drive a lot of, sales volume with us, regardless of the level of ROI that they've seen directly on the platform. So sometimes they can see like break-even points. Sometimes they can see a bit below break-even, but because of the post-purchase survey, we've been able to provide a lot of confidence for our advertisers to, confidently scaling on our platform. And we also like partner with our marketing science team to do like conversion lift studies to help advertisers understand the incrementality of the conversions that we're driving for their business. So yeah, I think a lot of the focus work has been on helping advertisers to understand attribution and to look beyond last click attribution.
So you spoke a little bit about how this is a trait that some of the best brands that you work with, that they put into practice. Do you mind sharing a few more strategies or traits of these types of brands or marketing teams that lead them to be successful in a D2C environment?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very competitive business in nature, right? So I think the first thing that we have seen is that there's a lot of innovations when it comes to our partner providing products to the market. They may come to an existing niche, but they will do some innovation around that. For example, like, pet treats is a very popular niche, and there's a lot of players there. So one of our partners actually very smartly, like innovate on the products. So they produce pet treats, but with a supplementary element. So they like provide like, healthy and vitamin-based or, like health-based improvement products when it comes to pet treats. And they have done really, really well with us. And the second thing is to like really, I think also like luckily that a lot of our advertisers come to us with a very, like it's a growth mindset, but it's a very sustainable growth mindset. So they do not sacrifice everything for the top line growth, but they look at, like their P&L very, very closely so that, they can scale, but doesn't break things along the way. Then that's one of the things that they have become very profitable in the longer run. And last but not least, when it comes to working with TikTok, I think with D2C brands overall, they've been very open-minded to us, and they were willing to test and learn different things because with TikTok as a sort of younger platform to other players, we are still like figuring out what exactly will work for certain brands. So sometimes A will work, but B might not work for certain brands. So it's a lot about test and learn and figure out what exactly is working. So we try different things in terms of creative best practices, campaign structure, product solutions, measurement, all of these things. And I think that's one of the things that we would encourage advertisers when they start working with us, is to embrace a test and learn mindset, right? So these are the things that I think have become very successful for advertisers.
So while we're on the topic of these kind of best-in-class brands, do you have any best practices that either you, your team, TikTok share with up-and-coming D2C brands that you think lead them to produce some of the best video content that leads to success?
Yeah, definitely. So I think inherently, because we are very short video based platform, and naturally, like some advertiser who is new to the platform think that it's very complicated because they're not used to video advertising. They might have done some advertising on videos in other platform or their ATL materials, But with TikTok, it's very sort of like native. It needs to be, like I mentioned, like entertaining, inspiring, and very much like like you're talking to a TikTok users rather than an ad, right? So it makes a very native experience. But what we try to convince advertisers is to show them that it's actually not very complicated to make a TikTok ad. So we have a very externally available and very powerful tool we call the Creative Center that shows advertisers like some of the top performing ads in many different factors. So you can filter by countries, you can filter by product categories, you can filter by objectives, whether you want to do like more brand awareness or consideration or conversion-based campaigns, which a lot of our advertisers are doing. Then they start to see some of the samples ads that are performing really well in certain markets, and they can replicate that. At the same time, constantly our teams are providing sort of a more data-driven approach to when it comes to like creatives that work on the platform. So it's just not about us going and telling them, oh, your ad should look like this, your ad should look like that, but we provide very specific guidance, like, if you add a CTA, if you have text overlay, which is very popular on TikTok, if you have sound on, if you have the price and the product demos, then your conversion rate will improve by X percentage. So some of these really great work from our marketing science team has really sort of like boiled it down to the very nut and bolt of creative production on TikTok. And we hope that we can sort of start sharing more and more of these sort of like really data-driven creative approach so that our advertiser can learn and also adapt to their strategy. Secondly, I think we also provide very clear sort of like roadmap to how much or how often they should produce more videos for our platform, because it's a very video consuming platform. As users keep swiping on the platform, meaning that they are consuming a lot of videos per day. So for example, like we tend to say that when you start with a platform, it's great to refresh your video every 2 or 3 weeks, and then your frequency of refresh will change when you increase your spend with us, right? For example, if someone is spending 5K per month, 5K per day, then probably they need to refresh every week. But if they spend to like 10K or 20K per day, then probably they need to refresh in a few days, because the impressions will get burned very quickly, and the frequency will become a lot higher, which means that your ad fatigue will kick in a lot faster. And also, like, when you want to change your CPA to a lower level, that means you also need to create a lot more ads, because you need more power to fire for that lower CPA. So a lot of these really great work that the team has done can provide very specific guidance when it comes to A, what needs to be there on a creative, B, how often that should be, and C, how many that should be. Yeah.
So now we've talked a little bit about what best in class looks like. Can you help share a little bit of the flip side of the coin? Kind of what are the cautionary tales? What type of traits or strategies do you think are detrimental to companies' growth as they're looking to test and develop their D2C strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I like I mentioned earlier, I think it's always good to be experimental. So adopt a very much like growth mindset when it comes to like testing out new strategies, new approach, because I think one of the things that we have seen at TikTok is that things change very quickly. So you start to see trends coming in for a few days, and then they will fade away, and then another things come right. So with this fast changing environment, it's best to like be very open and flexible when it comes to approach. So for example, like some advertisers, when they come to us, they sort of stuck to the old mindset of how Facebook ads was run, or like how Google ads would run, and we had to change that mindset a little bit to help them test and learn with that platform. The second thing is to really think about creative, because it's not just for TikTok, right? I think that we are one of the first pioneers in terms of driving that sort of like creativity within advertising, and that creativity takes about 50% of the success of ads, and maybe even more. Media is an easier part, distribution and everything can be easily done. So we sort of like empower that sort of or like amplify that creativity within advertising. So taking a very much like creative approach and the content first can be very successful for brands. And of course, last but not least, I think the team has shared earlier, when it comes to like the trends into D2C, we have seen that traffic has gone down, consumer demand has gone down. We have seen a reduction in workforce, scaling down the businesses, and also a lot of funding drive as well. So I think it's important that we stick to the sort of like a positive P&L mindset, not scaling too fast, but not just scaling too slow. But at a reasonable pace so that you can maintain a sustainable approach when it comes to like D2C scaling. And so these are the three things that I think are very important.
I really appreciate it. So first of all, thank you so much for your time. Last question before we let you go. I'm curious if you could give us a little bit of what excites you from a technological perspective. What innovation do you think is going to come to similar platforms in general to the market relative to D2C that you think could help move the needle over the course of the coming years?
I think that's a great question. So I think AI will continue to be the driver of change for the longest time. And recently we have seen a lot of talk about generative AI, so on and so forth, right? So, and like I think TikTok has become very successful, partly because, or majorly because of the AI and algorithm that we've been able to build on the user platform that has encouraged a lot of that stickiness and that sort of like recurrent behavior that user comes to the app and open very much a lot of times during the day, and they spend a lot of time on the app. That has been driven by AI, right? And the AI that we have is very powerful in the way that it understands the behavior of the user, but it understands the content of the video and it matches very well between the two. So we're hoping to bring some of these AI capability into the app, the ads ecosystem for the platform. So you start to see something like automation, AI-driven campaign, for example, like smart performance campaign is something that we have just launched, and it has worked quite well for the D2C businesses. We have seen a lot of successes with smart performance campaigns where the narrative is to let a lot of things be done by the machine. And I think we're also experimenting with, and I hope to see more success with sort of AI-driven video creative. So like, you have started to see people doing like, creative arts, creative images, and I think some other competitive partners, they have also like started to experimenting with creative that are being done by AI, right? So that is some approach that we're also trying to figure out, and I'm very excited about how that can change the behavior of the level of supply for creative in the future. So yeah, I think AI would be the key things to look forward to.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your insight. We all really appreciate it, and to be continued. Hopefully we'll talk again soon. And with that, we will give the floor back to CK.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hong, and thank you, Uri, for that session. That was very, very insightful. I hope you all soaked up what Hong had to share with you all. I see a lot of questions coming in. Okay, let's pick a lot of pricing question, but I think I'll go with this one. This question, I think it's for you, Yiquan. So how do we find category trends in the different platforms that we see? That's the question for you, Yiquan.
Right. So earlier on, I was sharing about beauty and cosmetics in Indonesia and also consumer and electronics in India. Looking into Amazon and Shopee category. So actually what Similarweb does is to collect digital signals from all the websites. And when we do that, we can actually look at page level traffic, right? So in Amazon, on Shopee, what you essentially do is to create segments of these related pages, such as Samsung, Oppo, iPhone, MacBook, so on and so forth. Group them together to look at the trend. Right, so this kind of logic can be replicated to either e-commerce platform or also to brand.com, such as if you want to see, for instance, for a furniture online store, how is their dining room furniture's trend looking like? Are people looking at dining tables? Are people looking at sofas? So with that, with Similarweb data, you can pull out all these page level traffic and look at the trends month on month, week on week, day on day. So with that, that's how we did that comparison between e-commerce and also D2C growth. I hope that answers the question.
Cool. Thanks for that, Yiquan. A lot of questions again on the pricing and the cost. So I think on the pricing and the cost, you can directly contact us. But this next question, I think it's very interesting, and I think it's for you, Hong, if you can address this. Our audience says this question: we're not sure if D2C is for us or our partner. Is there a way that businesses can first test the water without like fully committing to the model itself? So is there a way to test the temperature first, Hong?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for our team in particular, we work with some of the more established brands. But one of the things that we're driving in the region is that, TikTok is not just about the short video platform, but we are also like a shop attainment platform. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware that, we have recently launched TikTok shop in the region. We started with Indonesia in the last 2 years, and we have recently launched Vietnam and other key markets in Southeast Asia region for the last year as well. And I'm very excited that, TikTok shop is doing really, really well. So one of the things that we have encouraged our D2C advertiser is to really test the water with TikTok shop. We do have a very strong ecosystem when it comes to TikTok shop. And a lot of the success has been driven by what we call the TikTok shop partners. So these are the enablers that I working very closely with the TikTok shop team. What they do is they provide multiple services when it comes to almost like end-to-end support for merchants and sellers. So, they can manage your TikTok account, they can provide multiple content, they can do live streaming. Some of the sort of TikTok shop partners we have, they have like a large building with like multiple like live streaming rooms, and they can do like hours on end in terms of live stream as well. And the package they provide for advertiser is very reasonable. So a lot of the great work is surrounding around like, testing the water. Maybe we are launching 3 markets with TikTok shop partners, see how it goes, and then they can start to like go really full on TikTok shop at the same time ramping up their D2C business as well. So yeah, I think that's a great trend that we're seeing, and we're hoping to have some of our partners to onboard with us, not only on a D2C business but also on a TikTok business. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong. That really is a great question, because not everyone is like fully not committed, don't want to be committed fully yet to this model. So that's a great point from Hong. The last question, I will pick this one, and I think Uri, you can address this for us, help address this question for us. How does Similarweb helped retail or consumer product good clients to make all these crucial D2C decision or better D2C decision with Similarweb's data? That's the question, Uri, if you can help us clarify for this.
Oh, thanks so much for the question. I think the most important at this point, first of all, it depends whether or not you're a legacy brand and you're looking to optimize your strategy, or whether or not you're a startup and this is a foray into D2C for the first time. But the core is using data to drive your decisions. At this point, Hung talked about how everyone is so focused on ROI, on our ability to be able to attribute our spend relative to success, and allowing the data to really lead you before you make those key decisions, I think is going to be critical. And with Similarweb, one of the things that I think is the most advantageous is the fact that we provide fresh real-time data. We provide data on a 48-hour lag. So you actually have the ability to, like was recommended by the experts actually, to be able to guess and check relative to certain types of strategies or campaigns, invest smaller amounts of money, and then be able to take a look at what some of the feedback was, not only for you, but also with similar strategies exhibited by those best-in-class brands. So again, when you're in this type of environment and you're testing relative to different spend and strategies, being able to use the data to understand where you should overinvest or where you should kind of take your foot off the gas is going to be key.
Thank you for that, Uri. Thank you. Well, that's the end of our webinar. Let me thank all the panelists that has made this webinar a success. Uri for hosting that segment, and Hong, thank you for coming as a guest in this webinar, and Yuquan for your report. Now, questions are still coming in, mostly about pricing. So I think pricing, you kind of had to talk with us. We are in all the major social media. We have also just launched our WeChat platform. Please follow all our social media platform and contact us directly for all the cost and all the pricing related matters. Thank you so much for signing up for this webinar. And I hope you've learned a lot from our panels and have great takeaways from this webinar. And also for those who are attending this webinar, we are especially sending you the slides that you've seen today from Yuquan's report. And contact us in all our social media. And if you have specific questions for our panel today, you can find them on LinkedIn. So Uri Snyder, Hong Nguyen, and also Yuquan He are their names. You can find them and directly message them on LinkedIn. With that, I bid you farewell and all the success for your near future. Hope your success is skyrocketing. Goodbye from Similarweb. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.